Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share.
What's going on, y'all? Today we have a special guest. She's going to share her story, and I hope that it inspires a lot of people because it did inspire me when I heard it. How you doing, Kiana?
I'm good. Hello. Good afternoon.
Okay. So, let's get into it. For the viewers that don't know, Kiana is visually impaired.
I am.
So, take me through that journey. Start off when, because you wasn't visually impaired all your life, were you?
No, no, I haven't been.
Okay, so you grew up seeing colors, shapes, and the world.
Correct.
So as you went through that process, finding out, okay, what you had and what the end result would be, take
hmm
me through that journey. How did it feel?
Sure. I was a military brat. My father was in the army, and we were stationed in Hawaii. And when we moved back stateside to West Point, my mother noticed that I had a weird rash, and they thought it was related to the tropics and traveling. And when she took me to the doctor, they did some tests and determined I had an autoimmune disease called sarcoid. It is similar to lupus. The hallmark of sarcoid is that it attacks the cells in the body attack itself. Um, so at that time, I was about 4 or 5. They knew that the trajectory for it could be a number of things. For me, it manifests in rheumatoid arthritis that started around 4 or 5. And then I started to develop inflammation of the eye, which is called uveitis. So anything with itis at the end is related to inflammation. So as I got older, I had a normal life. I joined RLTC in high school, the Marine Corps, unfortunately, for the Army friends. But as we had to qualify and practice, drill, and different military exercises, I realized that I wasn't doing too well. I went from marksman to a sharpshooter to like, what's going on? So as my mother took me to see some more specialists, ophthalmologists, they determined that I was developing glaucoma, and glaucoma could lead to blindness. At this time, I'm 15, 16, and that is the worst time to lose your sight because emotions run high in college. I mean, in high school and then college. So I had to start living my life as a legally blind person, which just meant that I needed to squint. My vision was about 20/60, moving towards the 2200 range. I did complete high school and went to college and had to utilize the services of the Disability Support Services Office to get most of my work done. So that was adaptive software, learning how to use that, learning how to use different magnifiers. The key to success for anyone that is ambitious as a blind person is to embrace technology. It takes a while, like it took us a little while to get this interview started because my software wasn't compatible. But I'm sure we'll get into it. But as I got older, I got introduced to fitness and holistic living, and that helped slow down the process of losing my sight, actually. So I got really into fitness and lifting. I became a vegan. I started to follow Dr. Sebi, and the quality of my life improved immensely. But then I had to move back to New York from Florida and get my daughter enrolled in school. And the New York lifestyle, just I couldn't continue doing the same kind of active lifestyle I had when I lived down south, and my vision went quickly. So over the last year, I went from being able to see my daughter's face and peel a vegetable or even determine that cheese was molding, and now I can't. Now, as I look at this screen and we do this interview, if I look away, I see a little white square, but I have no real significant vision. For me, it's significant because I like the fact that I can still see sunlight and I can still see movement. But the difference between, I don't know, a Jordan and an Air Max, I can never tell. The difference between um, an avocado being fresh and not, visually, I couldn't tell. Crossing the street, depending on how far the street light is, I can't tell a difference. So my life has changed drastically in the last year. And It's changed how I relate to my family, how I communicate, how I date, how I work out, everything. But my goal is hopefully by the end of this interview to shed some light on the challenges and successes of being a blind woman in New York City and in this world, a woman of color. There are identity issues, there are health issues that come up for us, and our community is small. But I have been pretty brave, I think, and pretty consistent with my desire to still be powerful and to still push through and be authentic and have a good time and be a little ratchet and a little fun, but to not give in to like the darkness that everyone assumes consumes you when you become blind. People feel like you give up on fashion, you give up on your hair, you give up on your appearance, and that is not the case with my community and myself. But it was hard. I won't pretend like there are days that I cry. There's days that I'm really frustrated and angry, but those days are pretty infrequent. Um, so that's my
Okay.
journey to getting here.
Okay. So I want to go back to the beginning.
Sure.
So it started around 4 years old,
Yeah.
and around high school is where you really started to, I guess, feel the impact or the significance of it.
Yeah, yeah. I developed glaucoma, and glaucoma is a pressure condition. So, like people have hypertension, glaucoma is a buildup of pressure in the eye. Normal pressure is from 0 to 12. One day, out of nowhere, I woke up in immense pain. And when my father took me to the emergency ophthalmologist, my pressure was 48. And again,
Mm.
normal is 1 to 12, and mine was 48. And I could, like, it was unbearable. And this is why people, the old joke is, people smoke weed so that they can deal with glaucoma. That's real.
Mm.
Cannabis products are one of the things that help decrease pressure. But at the time, I was 16. We weren't even leaning that way. And so I had to have several surgeries over the next 5 to 6 years after that.
Okay. Okay. So wow. So while you're going through this, how were your emotions? Like, what did you feel?
At the time, part of me was glad to get out of school, even though I did well and I liked school. I think the idea of driving, dating, the things that happen when you live in the suburbs in high school, it was daunting because I just knew I wasn't going to be the girl who was going to get a car for her 16th birthday, or I wasn't going to have a new car going into college. And that's hard when you live in Long Island or Westchester or anywhere outside of New York City. So I struggled with that a little bit. So I busied myself big time with work.
Okay. What about friends? Did they act different as you went through this, or did you have the ones that stuck by you?
I did have really good friends. I was raised in Sacramento, California, and moved out here when I was about 15. So my home friends were just down because they've known me since I was 5. But my new friends out here, um, they didn't know what to do with me. Really, they didn't. I was fortunate enough to have some friends, a Black family in my community that were doctors. So they loved me because they could keep an eye on me and they knew I was in trouble. And if something happened, they could help treat me or get me to an ER. So it was tricky because I went to pretty much a predominantly white school and there were only 3 Black students and we stuck together. So really my vision wasn't the issue. It was kind of like, what are we going to do at this school to make sure we preserve who we are? So they let me slide with that, actually. That's a good question, actually. Thanks for asking that.
That's good. That's good. So you are going from high school to college.
Yeah.
Okay, so one, what college did you attend? And kind of talk me through that process. And did you know you want to go to college and that whole feeling of it, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I knew I was going to college for sure. Once the military was no longer an option because of my vision, I was going to go straight through. My intentions were to take my ASVAB senior year and then hit the military track like every other person in my family. But once that was ruled out, I decided I wanted to be in New York City. I didn't really know, or New York State, I didn't really know the difference between college life down south versus up north. So I applied to every school pretty much in the area, but I went to Stony Brook University in Long Island. which I loved. I also went to the University of South Carolina, which was everything. Go Gamecocks. We just, got that championship in the NCAA. But yeah, I went to both schools. And no one was able to notice my visual impairment. At the time, my eyes were brown. I have blue eyes now, and they're real. At the time, I looked normal. There wasn't any indication that I had a visual impairment. I currently have some atrophy in my left eye, which means it's beginning to shrink and it could die. Like, that's just the truth of it. So a lot of times people see me and I look a little squinty, but at the time of college, I presented pretty normal. There was no indication I had a visual impairment. So I just told people I was losing my sight, and everyone was cool about it. I didn't use a cane. I wouldn't use a cane because I was still embarrassed that I was losing my sight a little bit. And I was able to get away with so much. So a lot of times I went places with friends. I didn't do too much by myself that was risky, like nighttime classes or going somewhere unfamiliar. So I relied on my friends a lot. And then I spent a lot of time on campus. During the summers, I got jobs on campus that kept me on campus and kept me familiar with navigating, how to get around, and knowing the ins and outs of campus. And then I got hired and got a full-time job there and went to grad school. So I pretty much lived on campus for about 10 years.
Cool. So college life, partying, that was never an issue. You always
No,
enjoyed it.
no, college life was everything. I mean, Stony Brook is really good at fostering community within students of color, even the Latin students and West Indian students. We were able to really build close networks. And so if someone had said anything mean or wasn't really receptive to me, the blind girl or the visually impaired girl, being around, it never came my way. All of my friends were president of this club, captain of this club, chapter president here of this fraternity and sorority. So pretty much people just wanted good people around them. And that was never a big deal. So I
Okay.
think I found college like a microcosm. So I found my little world in college.
Okay. So did you ever learn Braille or anything like that?
There was a part of me that was really resistant to the idea that I would actually need Braille or actually be in the position that I am now. I figured that I was smarter than the disease. And so I figured every way and loophole to get stuff done without actually fully embracing Braille or learning to use a cane. So no, I didn't. But it's come back to haunt me now because there are real occasions of needing to use Braille. For example, elevators. I need to use one um, almost every day, getting in and out my building. So
Hmm.
that gets complicated if I'm in a building unfamiliar and I need 20 floor and I can't use it. It gets really tricky.
Okay.
If you can imagine, I mean, think about it. Go into an elevator and figure out how to get to your floor, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know it'll be scary.
And then imagine a not nice elevator, right? So I'm not talking about a hospital or a hotel or something. Imagine you're visiting a friend and they don't live in the nicest building. And, now you're worried about safety. You don't want to be a target, which I'm sure, we'll probably get into issues around safety and visually impaired people. So I wish I had, but I did not learn to read Braille in college.
Okay, so you would definitely recommend
For
for
sure.
someone.
The hardest part of blindness is accepting it. Once you accept it,
Mm,
you learn to think like a blind person. You learn to protect yourself. You learn to walk a certain way. You learn to hold your hands a certain way. You learn to hold your posture a certain way. Life will get easier. But I struggled big time with um, wanting to learn Braille, wanting to believe that I was losing my sight because I felt like I could avoid it.
mm. So you kind of felt like it wasn't going to happen, and
Yeah.
from what you're saying, okay.
I felt like I could be okay. 2200, although it would be like difficult for you, a sighted person, you would like crumble. But for a visually impaired person, that's not the end of the world. You can get away and still see some things and be on Instagram and travel and do the things that are highly visual. You really can. It's when you get up where I am now that you have to now think about a world using your other senses. And I have very heightened senses.
So when did that kind of shift? Like your hearing, smell, taste, when did all that kind of shift to where it is
Taste,
now?
biggest thing. Taste and touch was the biggest thing to happen first. And I realized I'm a texture person, and I don't know when it. I think during pregnancy. So I would say about 6 years ago, those things started to heighten. But over the last 4 years, my hearing is incredible. It is incredible.
Wow,
I hear somebody's phone ring in 2 rooms away.
that is
That,
crazy.
wait, let me preface this. That is not on a ringtone on vibrate.
Wait, say that again?
I can hear. I'm 3 rooms away from my daughter. I can hear her phone vibrate. And
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So to break the myth, it's not that we get these superhuman senses. I think that there's a part of our brain that's able to tap in to the senses you have and just heightens them. For example, have you ever seen I think there's a show called Criminal Minds where they do this psychological interview and they make you look back at something that happened in your head, an actual event, and say, look at the dresser. You see all the things on your dresser, and you actually are able to remember it because you get into the subconscious state of paying more attention. So I don't think I have hearing that I never had. I'm just paying more attention to it. I
Uh,
hear disturbances and sound. I hear a truck go by and I can tell how fast or which direction it's going, the way the wind pulls, or when
mhm.
I hear trash going across the floor, or let me see what else. Any disturbance I can hear. So as we talk, I can hear people in my kitchen. I can hear someone cleaning in the bathroom. I can hear the elevator opening on my floor, all happening right now.
Wow.
And
Does that get I know that does that get frustrating though?
not for me, for me, for the people around me, because I can hear it. And then when I'm home in the mornings, I listen to 3 different radios at the same time. So I'll listen to 1010 Win, CNN, and Hot 97 all at the same time.
And all that information is coming in and you can
Yeah,
actually dissect it and regurgitate it if you need to.
yeah.
Wow.
I was hoping to play it. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I listen to anything on your phone, anything, any app that you have, any text message, anything that comes across my phone in text. I listen to at about 250 words per minute. I need to get to 350 words per minute, but I'm at 250. So right now it sounds like, but I can hear it and I can understand it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
I mean, your eye does all the reading and perception, and you just don't notice it. You point and click, but you don't know how many words you just went past and how many descriptions and colors and shapes and orientations. Imagine, do you know how to use Excel?
Yes.
Okay, so imagine copy and pasting cells on one sheet to another without looking at it. I have to know where each cell is, what row, what column, what sheet, and then be able to extract it without losing it and paste it in the right spot without looking at it. So I have to be able to hear all of those details.
So you can actually wow. Wait a minute. So you can actually I'm trying to get wow.
Try. Go ahead, try.
Wow. So I assume that's some dealing with your work or whatever you got to do, right?
Mhm.
So wow.
Think about it, right? Like how many things you copy and paste or filling an application, resetting a password, hashtagging a picture that you need to see in order to do it. I now have to listen to every detail, every word. And we live in a world where everything is not grammatically correct. So it may say hot girl 97 and girl spelled with a U and a Y. And now I'm trying to decipher what I'm hearing. So again, I don't think I gained superhuman hearing. I just was able to sharpen those skills I already had and to listen to everything.
Wow. That's interesting. That is very, very interesting.
Pretty cool.
So you said you had a baby, right?
I do.
How old is your baby?
My baby is 6.5.
6.5. So tell me about that. You find out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind?
Um, happy. Happy because I wasn't sure with the disease that I could get pregnant or that I could have a baby. And I just knew that I had enough education. I had finished grad school at this point, and I was ready to be a mom. I had already started doing acupuncture. I had already started lifting. Um, and I had already started kind of preparing my body to become a mom. I just I stopped eating mucus producing foods, which is meat and dairy and corn and wheat and all kinds of other stuff I really didn't necessarily need in my diet. I was most concerned with just being able to see her face. I just was like, God, if you let me get to delivery and I could see her face, I'll be cool. I won't complain. But then the reality of parenting while legally blind, right? Is your kid gonna eat a penny? She drew her eyebrows on with a Sharpie once, and that I didn't know till her dad comes home and he's like, yo, the kid looks crazy. Like, let me just tell you that she got into the Sharpies and she drew Sharpie on her face. So now we're Googling how to take Sharpie off a skin. She took twine, maybe, I don't know, 100 yards of twine, and it looked like a spider made a web over my whole house while I was cooking. And I didn't know till I came out. So it's been an interesting ride as a parent. One of the things I like to hashtag is parenting while blind because she does all these really funny things. And so I share the truth of it. Some of this it's not cute. I was concerned actually about would I be able to clean her properly, like change her pamper.
Hmm.
One of the trainings that we get, because there are different agencies that train blind people, was like, I don't care if you have to use 50 baby wipes, you wipe until you feel like you can't smell anything. You just really just have to sniff her bottom and just check it out that kind of way. Because there are tons of blind couples and blind parents. This is not something that we can't do. We just have to be very mindful about how we raise our children. But there are logistics that are difficult, putting bells on her shoes, locking doors, baby proofing. And now she's 6. So she's interested in YouTube and she's interested in coloring and just making sure that she knows that don't try me and don't try to play me. Don't let this cane fool you. I know everything and I can see everything. I tell her that all the time. I have cameras everywhere, which isn't true, but I just tell her that
So,
because people will try to take advantage of weakness, right? Not just
mhm.
adults or children of blind people, but she might think, oh, I'm gonna eat all these cookies. Well, guess what? I can hear you eating them, so don't. Like, uh,
Yeah.
we compensate with other skills as it pertains to parenting. I do struggle with not being able to read to her. I wish we could experience that together, but I taught her how to read pretty early. And so she's reading chapter books and reading to me. So that's kind of cool.
So when did she realize that you were blind?
I don't know. Um, I always told her I don't see well. And then she asked
Okay.
why I have blue eyes and she doesn't. And then once I started cane training in 2019, this is 2022, I started cane training, which means I got an actual cane. It's called a long cane. And the instructor insisted that I bring Callie with me. My daughter's name is Callie. At the time, she was 3. And I was concerned and embarrassed because I was learning how to do this. So it was a lot of fumbling and awkwardness. But she was going to be with me a lot, and I needed to train her on how to safely navigate New York City and how to walk with me. For example, most men, when they walk with women, will walk on the outside, on the outside of the side closest to the street.
Uh-huh.
But that's not always the safest way for a blind person, depending on where I'm holding the cane. She may
Mm.
on that side so that I can protect her, or she may need to be on my dominant hand so that I can grab her if something happens. She needed to know the crossing signals. She needed to know when we could cross because we always go parallel with traffic. And I needed to train her pretty early. So when she got to school, I told her, I said, your friends may think that the way mommy interacts and the way mommy travels is a little bit different. But I want you to know that your mom is hot and your mom works hard and your mom cooks for you and I want you to know that there's nothing more I want in life than to be your mom. So it was my way of hoping that she wasn't going to be embarrassed. I also put her in play groups with my other blind mom friends and their children, in the same age range. So they didn't feel different when we come home and our cane is at the front door, or if I have to ask her to read something, or if I miss something, like her shoe was untied or her shoe was on the wrong foot or she missed a button. These are things that happen from time to time. So I
Hmm.
just told her and I let her feel whatever she feels. I hope it's not embarrassment because I work really hard. But if it is, that's natural to feel like, how come my parent is a different one? So we
Yeah.
have communication about it.
Yeah. So what about the genetic aspect of it? Did you ever feel like, I'm scared that I might transfer my condition to her?
Um, I did because there is a genetic component. I do have My father has two first cousins that also have the same condition, but it does not affect their eyes. It affects their lungs. Sarcoid is most popularly known in the Black community in Tisha Campbell, which is Gina from Martin, and also Bernie Mac, which he later died from. Um, I was slightly concerned, but I tried really hard to be mindful about health and fitness in my family. So my daughter eats really well. I believe in CMOS. I believe in Sebian diets. I believe in fresh fruit no matter what time it is. Whenever she wants a snack, she's welcome to go in that refrigerator whenever she wants to. So I want her to live a life that she feels like her body can heal itself for the most part. That if she puts good things in her body is in optimal shape to deal with whatever comes her way. It may not be sarcoid. It could be a cold, flu. It could be corona, right? That if her body is at its optimal state, then she can handle anything that comes her way. So there is no indication right now that she has sarcoid or will suffer from anything, but I am mindful that it could happen.
Okay. Okay. So dating, I have to ask about dating.
Okay.
So how did you meet the father of your
Yeah,
child?
in college, yeah, my Callie's father I met in college, and he was an athlete at the time, about to go pro, and he did, and he didn't. It didn't matter to him. It didn't matter at all because I think like our connection and chemistry was so strong. But I did make him aware that I might have fertility issues in the future, that I have an eye condition, and I went totally blind, completely, like in the dark, the week of my graduation from undergrad. The first thing I was able to see as my vision came back was him. One day I was in the I was admitted in the hospital because I just went blind out of nowhere. And I remember blinking and blinking and blinking and blinking. And he's looking at me and I'm like, oh my God. I said, you cut your hair. And he's like, you can see that? And, it was just a weird experience with my condition. Um, and he took on the cause. He felt like with his knowledge in health science and going into PT and the career path that he was going to follow, he felt like he could heal me. And he did.
Wow.
He did. He put me in touch with every natural, holistic doctor that he could. Any person, acupuncturist, Chinatown, Africasian, any person that was about natural healing, he put me in contact with. And then I got inspired to get fit and to get in shape by him. And he taught me how to lift. He taught me how to run. He taught me how to cook in that kind of way. Because imagine taking out butter and meat, right? And dairy, things that we grew up eating.
That
Um,
must have been real hard.
oh, it was terrible. At first, it was terrible. I was like, you just don't want it. You don't like me. You don't like me. A Black person, is not eating meat, cheese, rice, or potatoes. Like, just forget it. Um,
Yeah.
But it wasn't a problem when we had the baby. He was concerned about just safety stuff, making sure we didn't leave things out and that we were being as safe as we could around the baby because she was little.
Mhm.
So he didn't care at all. And
So you
guys that I date don't really care too much about it either.
you're not together
No,
anymore.
no, no, we.
Okay, so as you go out and kind of want to experience the dating, I guess, scene,
Uh huh.
tell me about that. Like, what are your thoughts? How do you kind of Get
Now,
your groove back, as they would say.
well, um, I get a lot of attention because people don't expect a blind person to look like me, or and that's not from anywhere necessarily arrogant because I like how I present. But you think of a blind person, you think of someone who can't match their clothes, or who doesn't realize that their hair is messed up, or that they have, these are stereotypes, and maybe and not everyone holds them, but I held them. So I'm just being honest about what I thought about blind people. So a lot of times I'm in the gym myself, and one of the things that's really important, I work out about 5 days a week, and I lift. They're usually surprised that I can lift heavy and that I know what I'm doing, and that, you see the girls in the cardio section, right? No shade to them, but I go and I lift heavy. And so a lot of times I get a lot of attention from men because they're surprised that I can do that much, or that I can lift that heavy, or that I'm that consistent. I work out about 6 days a week. So a lot of times I meet people in the gym, honestly. And then people are just curious about, like, a lot of people will encourage and say, good job, hang in there. Just even walking down the street, because it takes a lot of courage to cross Broadway in Manhattan by yourself with a cane. So
Mhm.
usually people come up to me, but I grew up in a Black American household, liking Black American music. And then I got really into carnival, like Trinidad Carnival and Barbados Crapova and Vincy Mass. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
a lot. So I dance and I have fun and I got a good crew. And I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of friends and family that are just with it. And that hasn't ever stood in the way. And nobody's been shallow enough to, like, be rude to me or insensitive. So I think confidence goes a long way, because I happen to feel like men are attracted to women that are sure of themselves, that are still feminine, but are okay with being themselves. It's nothing for me to be embarrassed about. I can't see, but that doesn't mean that I don't like to have fun. I don't like to dance and travel and feel different kinds of energy. So I don't struggle in that area too much.
You never had to check nobody?
I dated a blind guy. He's the only person I really had to have some issues with. But
That's
no,
interesting.
no, I dated a blind athlete. A really good experience. Really, really good experience. He actually taught me how to be confident. He taught me how to do this. He is interesting. He's been an athlete for 25 years. He still runs 8 miles 3 days a week, and he lifts. He plays a sport called gold ball that is designed for blind people, which is really interesting. It's kind of like soccer and dodgeball combined, but with a ball that has a bell inside of it. So when you throw it, you hear how fast it's coming or where it's coming based on the ball shaking.
Mm.
When I started dating him, he was like, listen, you are a woman first, a Black woman, and being blind is so secondary. It's about having integrity, um, being a good person, and deciding that you want to live. And if you got those three things together, then the blindness you'll navigate. And that
Mhm.
helped big time. It really did. It was really impactful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Our blind community, what's weird? We tend to date within the blind community because you don't have to explain. We don't have to be in the kitchen and say sorry for bumping you, or make sure you wipe off the counter because we dripped something from cooking, or making sure you close cabinets, right? Certain things happen when you're in a blind community that you just do automatically, that you don't have to worry about with a sighted partner.
Wow. So cooking, what
Mhm.
what is that like? How do you, make sure that you are not burning anything or,
I don't
you
burn
know,
anything, first of all, nothing. I cook every day, and your former guest Alexis can tell you I cook every day. Um, there's some things I don't do. I don't deep fry like fish, and I love fried fish, like salmon croquettes or fried chicken. I don't deep fry anything anymore because it's just not safe, right? Gauging how brown something is, how hot the oil is. That's something that really you need an eye to kind of see how you're crisping and stuff like that. So that's the only thing I don't cook. But I don't know. I just been cooking so long that I've gotten used to it. What I do is I cut and peel using certain tools. When I cut, I ball my fist up when I'm holding it so I don't chop my fingers up. So I always line up against my knuckles. And I have a special cutting board that one side is white and the other side is black. What that does is if I put a white onion on the black side, it gives me a little contrast. Or if I put a green bell pepper on the white side, I get a little contrast.
Mm.
Sometimes like my dicing isn't symmetrical, but I'll have someone come in and chop up onion for me for the week, or garlic for the week, or bell peppers. I cook with those things regularly. So I just have a bowl that I can pull from and throw in there.
Wow.
But
What's your best dish?
I cook maybe 5 things out of this world: gumbo, curry shrimp,
Mm.
salmon croquettes, any kind of bean. So like black beans or pinto beans or any kind of bean, I cook and I get busy. Um, any kind of vegetable, sauteed or cooked vegetable, I cook well. I can cook a melody, medley. Look at me, medley. I didn't think about that for a minute. I can cook. I can cook anything, pretty much. I mean, I'm not a good baker. Um, you know, can't be perfect, right? So I'm not a good baker. But gumbo, any kind of crab or shrimp dish, especially curry shrimp, that's my favorite. Yeah, those are the things I cook the most.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about how your disability,
Uh-huh.
how it affected you in the culture.
Um, okay. So I always ask this to people, especially people of color. If you couldn't see yourself, how would you know you're Black? Or how would you know you're Latina? Or how would you know you're indigenous? How would you know if you don't have those cues? So for me, I didn't suffer too much because I had a very clear point of reference with having vision. And my family's incredibly pro-Black and pro-Afro-Latin. So I didn't really struggle in those ways. And I studied Black American and Black history in college. That's what I got my undergrad degree in, one of them. And I was sure of who I was. And I was sure of how I wanted to raise my daughter. I wanted her to have a strong connection to anything Black, whether she found it in the Caribbean or on the continent or in someone else's culture. She could recognize the drums were African. You could recognize that the essence is African. Um, so I didn't struggle in that kind of way. But it was really important for me to make sure that my daughter knew that I knew who I was as a Black woman. So my hair is always locked and in some kind of natural style. And I always play music that is specific to our culture. Whether it's Afro beats or jazz or gospel, I want her to know that I know who I am. And that blindness didn't affect at all for me. But I've seen other people struggle with it. Especially there's a large population of blind people that are albinos. And so they have the texture of our hair, whatever range that falls in, but they have no pigment, right? So their hair is blonde, their eyes are blue like mine, and their skin is the lightest that we come on the spectrum of Blackness. And those people do struggle big time.
Wow. That is very interesting. That's
Yeah.
very interesting. So when you excuse me, when you think about the culture, we wear, clothes a certain way,
Hmm.
hair a certain way, um, all that stuff. When she comes to you and say, I want my hair a certain way, or I want to wear my clothes a certain way,
I still
right?
dress, still do her hair. So for me, there's a lot of tactile and muscle memory. So I still do her hair. I braid her hair and I twist her hair and I wash her hair. And I tell her, you don't have straight hair because that's not how God intended your hair to grow. Um, as it pertains to fashion, her dad is pretty fashionable and he's West Indian. And so he
Mm.
always adds some flavor. What? I'm done, Mommy. Thank you. I'm recording. Okay, can I go in the room? Yes. She has on a leotard and a tutu right now. It's not my best moment to even tell you that I got this back down. Close the door, please. Um, but I'm a sneakerhead. I'm kind of urban. I'm fortunate enough to be able to wear workout clothes a lot, and I'm a big sneakerhead. And so and we live in Harlem, right? So Harlem's a place that is fashion forward, right, as it pertains to the Black community and the culture, musically, racially, that exists. So she's into fashion, so she's always looking at different styles and deciding what she wants to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm all here for the black, so I want her influence to be rooted in her blackness. That's important to me.
Yeah.
Like I wear
Right.
this dress this way, I do my hair this way because I'm proud of being black. And just because mommy can't see that doesn't mean I don't feel that. Because being black is like an energy, right? Because some of us
Yeah.
speak clear, some of us embrace our accents and dialects. Some of us are educated, some of us look stereotypical, some of us don't. But does that make our black experience any less? I'm a black woman, whether I could see that or not. I'm certain of that. So it's important that I let that confidence exude and remind her that no matter what my vision looks like, her blackness is for her to define. And, make sure she sneaker game is good and she'll be good with me.
I think we may have lost your visual.
Oh, no.
Um, right now, we just seeing a picture of your.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. We're back.
Okay. Technical difficulties of
A
dealing with
little.
a person.
It's okay.
No problem.
Um, so going back to what I was originally saying. So, the culture changes, right? And we
Yeah.
have the Cardi B's and the Nicki Minaj's, and you know, so they're kind of wearing things that you know are revealing a lot to a lot of people.
Okay.
Um, what do you say to your daughter if she has ever came to you and said, "Hey, look, I really like Cardi B. I think she's kind of, fly or whatever, and I want to wear or dance or do things like that." How do you react?
Well, I like those women personally, a lot. I'm Team Cardi actually. I think that my response would be that it's important to respect yourself as a young lady. And at 6 years old, she has to dress like she's six. And at 14, she can dress like she's 14. Those are grown women. And so what they do with their body and their content is for adults. And so when she gets to that age, she can decide with no judgment from mommy what that looks like from her. I'm going to tell her some of the risks and some of the stereotypes that's associated with it and let her make her own decision. As it pertains to her being under 18, I expect her to be respectful. I expect her to dress according to her body and to the event, right? And to the circumstances. If you're hanging out, that's going to look different than the uniform she wears to school. That's going to look different than her working out. That's going to look different than being at the beach. But I want her to have some level of modesty because I think that's important for young women to be protective of their bodies. But as a stereotypically shaped woman and the women in my family, you're not going to be able to hide some of that. So it doesn't matter what kind of uniform. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird when girls get to 14 to 16 because you get boobs and butt and all this stuff happening. I don't expect her to put a smock on, but I don't expect her boobs to be hanging out or her butt to be hanging out. Like, that's not acceptable. And so my goal is to teach her about fashion and to teach her how to respect herself and still be fly, but to show respect for herself, that she determines that for herself. And then she has to decide who she wants to be as an adult. But she's surrounded by women who are stylish and fun and appropriate and sexy while still respecting their bodies. So that's the best I got for you right there. Hopefully
That's
she'll
well
be
said.
someone that doesn't show so much skin. But if she wants to, I like them. But I'm also 4 times her age.
So discipline, how
Yeah.
does that? What does that look like in your household?
Um, I try not to snatch her up too much because I mean, imagine, like, God forgive me, but like, I'm not the spanking parent too crazy. And if I did, I would be scared that I would hurt her because I couldn't.
Mm,
This is the truth about blind people. If you hit someone, you can't gauge how much depth perception you have, right? Like, I would hate to really hurt her. So I just
mm-hmm.
have to. But she and I have a lot of communication. I'm not a parent that yells too much, or I do yell. That's not true. I'm not a parent that's abusive, and my daughter is sensitive. So a lot of times we can have a conversation about things, but my no means no because it could
Mm-hmm.
be. of us traveling, right, or crossing the street, or what if something popped off and I needed her to stop or to drop, or I don't know, maybe I'm cooking and she's trying to be funny and sneak up behind me. I would hate for her to get burnt or something. So she has
Mm-hmm.
to, we can play, but you can't play with me about everything. You need to let me know what's going on. You don't be sneaky. Don't be dishonest. We talk about integrity every day. You need to tell mommy everything because I never want to hurt you or put you in a bad position. So you have to tell me the truth. There's no a little white lie or I bent the truth. You have to tell me the truth because I rely on that. If she
Mm-hmm.
stove is off and it's really on, I could burn myself or her or our home. So I'm a little bit strict. I'm a little bit of the strict parent, but I also reward her and make sure that she has a good time and she has a balance of both.
That's good. That's good. You sound like an awesome, awesome parent.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to go back to you said you are able to kind of match your clothes and do everything. How do you go about doing that? Because I know I saw in Ray where he had to kind of stitch to everything in his clothes.
The movie Ray, that's what you're referring to?
Yeah, the movie Ray.
Um, I don't take too many chances fashion wise. I pretty much stick to the same silhouettes that work for me, and they work for me. Um, I, I get creative and take chances with my footwear a lot of times, or with my hairstyles. I have locks that are down to my waist, so I'll get creative there. But I like simple things, and I'm a sneakerhead. So I like sandals and stuff like that, but I really am a sneakerhead. So where you'll see me get fly is, pulling out my sneakers, really. A lot of times when I do go out somewhere really different, my friends will help style me just because they like to
Mm.
shop. So up until maybe 6 months ago, I was still shopping for myself.
Mm.
And I know what I like. I know what works. It's no need to reinvent the wheel. You're always going to need a black dress. You're always going to need a dope jean. You're always going to need something formal. You're always going to need blazers. And then you accessorize and dress them up. If I'm not sure of something, I'll FaceTime my friends. And
Oh, okay.
I would hate to embarrass myself and end up in a meme or on YouTube or something crazy because I thought this looked good and nobody told me, yeah, no, that's not it.
So you go into the store and you going to buy outfit. How what's your thoughts like?
By
Go
myself.
you going by yourself.
Okay. I have an idea of what I want all the time. There's never a time that I have no idea of what I want. And a lot of times, if I find something I like, I'll buy it in a couple different colors. So you'll see
Oh.
I'll get it in 4 different colors and I'll do different things with it. So if I'm by myself, I'll tell an associate, hi, I'm here. I'm shopping. I have an idea of what I want. I need an associate to go shop with me. And so a lot of times they like that because they don't often get the opportunity to style someone because they're just working at TJ Maxx or Macy's or wherever they are, right? So they typically like it and they're patient. I tell them I'm going to be here for about 30 minutes or an hour. I need this size. I like these colors. I don't like anything too freaky or too weird. So I'll tell them the parameters of what I want. And then I'll go try it on. And with the limited vision I have, I can see the silhouette. And if I'm not sure, I take pictures and send it to my friends. So they'll
Oh.
thumbs up or thumbs down if it's doing what it's supposed to do. A lot of times someone will say, okay, I like that. Let's take it in the top or see if you can get a smaller size here. So they'll give constructive criticism. None of my friends will ever let me go out looking crazy.
That's good.
I'm going to go with something that works. I'll put on a jean and a blazer and a heel, and I know that'll be simple.
Okay, so as you're going out to different places, you know, you have different laws that require you to have certain, I guess, things put in place.
I can get a little impatient because I don't like to be insulted, especially my intelligence. I can see that if you haven't, let's say I come to your store and you have not experienced a blind person in your store. So you don't know that you have to have some ADA, which is Americans with Disabilities Act, certain accommodations. If I say to you, I come in your supermarket and I need someone to shop with me and you refuse, then you're refusing to accommodate someone that has a disability. And that opens you up for a lawsuit. So if they're being funky with me, I'll just remind them. I'm like, well, there's a law that supports this and this opens you up to a lawsuit. A lot of times people are very accommodating. I'm trying to think when I had a bad experience. The airport, that's where it gets funky.
Mm.
They want me to sit in a wheelchair, and I'm like, my legs work. I lift more than you can. I lift more than your dad or your father or your man. Like, and so to have my baby pulling a suitcase and I'm sitting in a wheelchair just fine as can be frustrating at times. And then I see elderly people or the people who really need this kind of service. It's just interesting how they'll group you together, and I don't like to be insulted. I also find it to be incredibly disrespectful to speak to the person I'm with. If you ask me what I want, I'm ordering at your counter some food, and you start talking to the person I'm with as if I'm not there or I'm dumb or I'm incompetent, then that's like
Mm.
curse out, because that's disrespectful and it's rude. No one said I couldn't order my own things, or I couldn't tell you what my business is, or I couldn't swipe my card. How do you know I want them to know what's going on with me? What if I'm
Mm.
buying something that's personal or that's confidential? You just gonna tell everyone my business because you feel like I'm just so blind that my brain doesn't work? That will cause you to get cursed out, and then
Wow.
then possibly a lawsuit.
So you come across a lot of people who don't respect, I guess, your independence.
Not too many. I've been fortunate. I haven't had too many experiences, but I've had to check some people and just remind them, like, you're in a business or you're in an industry that requires you to deal with the public. So you have to know people coming with different kinds of circumstances. The best way to deal with a blind person is to ask them if they need some assistance. Before you touch them and grab them and you think you're helping them. Is the camera still on? Something just popped up. Okay. Are we
Yes,
good?
yes. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So before you assume that I want you to grab me and help me down the stairs, or speak to the person I'm with, or to talk to my child and say, hey, you make sure you help your mom. You ask me, do you need some assistance? Hey, I'm standing to the right of you. Would you like me to guide you across the street? Or hey, your daughter's button is missing, a button. You might want to start from the top and work your way down. Don't
Mm.
assume that because I'm blind that I need your help. Because if you weren't here, I would still get these things done.
Wow. So crossing the street. Oh man, man, how is that?
So I
Like,
live in an area that I'm fortunate enough to have the audible sounding crossing signals.
mm-hmm.
The white man or the white hand or whatever you have in your neighborhood that tells you it's time to cross. The corresponding sound for that is a beep, a consistent beep every 3 seconds. When it would flash visually, which tells you, you need to finish crossing the street, the beeping will speed up.
Mm.
So that's how I know when to cross, if that's there. If it's not there, then I have to do one of a few things. Either follow traffic and walk parallel to the traffic. If I'm not sure, wait. All else fails, wait. Wait until a new cycle of the crossing lights happens, if I can figure it out. If I can't, then there's often a route that I can take that is safer. Or I'll ask someone. There's plenty of times that I'll ask someone, and I speak Spanish, so I'll ask them in English or Spanish that or is the light changing? If my daughter's with me, she's trained on how to identify the sounds, but I still, because she's 6, remind her to look both ways. And delivery guys don't follow any rules on the street. So, the little bikes, they go at their own laws and own speeds and stuff like that. So it's just each situation is unique, and I try to implore something that's going to ensure that I'm safe. Bottom line is to remain safe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you because I know, New York, that that traffic is crazy. They kind of
And
drive, like they're insane and
the
don't
train
really.
is crazy. The biggest thing is that I carry pepper spray and, like, I forgot what this little weapon is called. It's a weapon that if somebody grabs you, it
Hmm.
looks like an ice pick, but it's dull. You can get out of a grab. So
Hmm.
I took some self-defense classes on just how to get some space between me and an attacker, or get some time between me and an attacker. And I carry pepper spray because New York City
Hmm.
is crazy anyway. And then I'm often concerned that I look like a target. Like, if you wanted to do something bad to someone, you're gonna go with the person that you think is gonna put up the least fight, or that that you'll get away with something. So, there's little tricks that blind people do to try to make sure that they're safe.
Yeah. So riding like public transportation in
Mhm.
the city, how was that?
I do that every day. I take
So you
like
ride the bus, the train, everything.
every day. Mm-hmm.
Wow. How do you do that?
So the agency that governs blind people and that gets you the training that you need. First of all, for any blind person, wherever you go, there's an agency that will help do mobility training. So if I move to a new area, they'll help me find the bus routes, the streets, how to cross the streets that are in my neighborhood. If I take a job in a new state, they'll come out and help you logistically map out how to get around. But what I do every day is I take one of three different routes. I make sure the bus driver or the train conductor knows I'm on the train and where I'm getting off. I try to sit near them for the most part. I try to give myself extra, not I try, I give myself extra time every day because New York City, right? Nobody thought 9/11 was going to happen or the blackout was going to happen. So I keep in mind that something could happen. I always carry water and a snack just in case something happens and I end up outside longer than I want to be. I could be with my daughter stuck somewhere for 2 hours that we didn't intend on. So I'm still her mom. Regardless if I'm, blind, I still have a responsibility to keep myself safe and to take care of her. So I do that, and I share my location with my mom and close friends. So at any time, they know where I am. So if no one has heard from me for a whole day, that's really unusual. And someone has some accountability of where I am. I don't ever want the trail to get cold of where I am. So I make sure that I have a lot of transparency about what I do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tricky. And then when I'm on the train, I stand in a way with my legs spread that, like, I hate making it sound like I'm nervous all the time, but you just have to think that way in New York City that something could pop off. So I stand in a way that if you were to push me, you're not going to push me over. I have a,
Oh, okay. Okay. So you always stand with a good base.
yep. I never let my back just be any old kind of place. I stand near a pillar. I think about these things just to make sure, okay, what's happening here. I never have headphones in both ears. I do have to use headphones a lot because we use voiceover on our phones. And you may be reading something that you don't want anyone to hear, like your banking information or an important email or something confidential. So I do rely on my headphones a lot, but I always have them just over my ear dangling as opposed to plugging up my ears. And I never put both in at any time. And because my hearing is really, really sensitive, I don't need it to be up loud anyway. And I can
Hmm.
process conversations at one time. So if I'm somewhere and it sounds like something is happening, an altercation, an argument, I can hear the beginnings of it and kind of decide, let me scoot myself this way. Or let me
Yeah.
try to not engage and try to steer clear of anything that I can when I can.
So you ride the subway. How do you identify, when you get on that platform, the distance you need to be away from, the train?
The train has in New York City has a reflective tape. The same thing that I guess is on streets. It's thick. It's like a paint slash sticker. So the texture of that strip, which is lines the train edge and the quote unquote sidewalk or the part that's safe to walk feels different. So my cane is designed to pick up changes in the ground. So distance or even gravel versus like marble, you can feel the difference. And then a lot of trains have bumps on that ledge. So it's kind of like, if you're driving on a highway and you start to drift and that makes that sound, that gravelly sound, like you're
Hmm.
I don't know what you call that situation because I don't drive. But you know what I mean? If you start to drift,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's my cane will do that on the train, so it'll let me know how close I am. And when I'm with my daughter, I just remind her constant repetition of the rules. We don't step on the yellow until the train is here, and then we always go the door. We always sit near the door to remind her because at some point she's going to be on the train too, and I want her to embrace these same kind of techniques about how to be safe. And if I'm somewhere unfamiliar, I'll stay near the turnstile, not too far from it, so that if something looks scary or sketchy, I can get back out and get up and I don't feel trapped. And I know for sure if I'm near the turnstile, a door is going to open near there.
Wow.
Take my I,
So.
hear the train coming. I hear the wind come first. I hear the train rumbling. There may be an announcement. So I kind of have a few signs to prepare myself that the train is coming in. Then I'll get closer to the edge.
Okay. So tell me about a little bit about how you enjoy yourself as far as entertainment. Do you go to movies? And if you do go to a movie, what is that like? Do you watch Netflix, TV?
I do all of those things. The movies is interesting. I've learned how to do the movies. We get headphones. So if I go with you, we go to the movies, you'll watch the movie, eat your popcorn. I'll get a set of headphones at the customer service. In one ear is the soundtrack of the movie. So boom, clack, hey, what you doing? All of that stuff, right? Just as you're hearing it. In the other ear is a narrator that is saying the dog jumped over the moon and the girl looked sad and the clock fell off the wall and the dog showed his teeth. So there's one side is telling me what's happening on the screen while the other side is the regular soundtrack to the movies. Does that make sense?
Wow.
So I'm hearing both and I'm
So
processing
that is
both now.
incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So how does it pop up in your mind? I can just visualize it, but tell me how it actually is while you're going through it.
I was fortunate enough to have some vision. So in my mind, I just paint a picture of what I think it would look like. Because I can't get mad at what I can't see anymore. But I'm really glad that I get a description. So if you tell me what your house looks like, I'm like, oh, I've seen Property Virgins before, or I watch HGTV a lot. I can imagine that. And we create our own mind. I mean, our own scenery of what this looks like. And I laugh. I love Netflix. I'm watching Bel Air and I'm watching Ozark and whatever. And watch is relative because I'm hearing it and putting together what I can with the narrator. The thing that I struggled with was Game of Thrones because
Mm.
Game of Thrones is one of those things that there's so many little nuances. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan.
You know, there's so many little things that if you don't see it, you will miss.
Hmm.
Right. So that part was hard for me, but it was so well written. It was so good that I was like psycho into it with everyone else at the time. That was the only thing that I struggled with. In terms of entertainment now, I like to be out in nature. I like to be anywhere warm. I like to be with family and friends. I love cooking. So I often rather have like small, intimate get-togethers than to go out to a large thing. But I do that too. We actually just went to brunch this weekend and I dance and we I just have to make it clear to people so that they don't feel uncomfortable. Because I don't want someone to think that I'm being rude, right? Because I just ignored
Hmm.
you, felt like I played you, or why I'm not making eye contact because I don't know how, or certain nuances that I just can't participate in. I'll just tell someone, I can't see. And they usually people will nervous laugh like, girl, please. And I'm like, no, no, I'm actually blind. And then like, oh, so sorry. You don't have to be. I'm just telling you so that we can interact and get past the awkwardness.
No, you said that you were uh bilingual.
I am.
Okay, so where are you from, or your family origin? Where are they from?
Sure. One side of my family is Cuban. They're black, but Cuban. Depending on where you live in the country, they forget that black people live everywhere, right? And
Yeah,
so black
true.
just here or in Africa, but like more black people ended up in the Caribbean and South America than they ever did here in the States. So there are black people everywhere. So one side of my family is Cuban, and the other side is Black American. My mom is bilingual. My mom speaks about 4 or 5 different languages.
Wow.
And she can pick up accents and dialects. It's really annoying. So whatever accent you have, she's picking up and she's gonna match you with it. It is insane. I'm like, yo, you're doing here, lady. So I do have a love for languages. I grew up though, my experience was that of a Black American for the most part, I would say.
Hmm.
And my stepmom is Black Puerto Rican, and so there's a lot of Latin influence in my world. And I live in Harlem. I live in Harlem/Washington Heights, so everything here is in Spanish.
Hmm. That's dope. That's dope. So, what would you like to share with the viewers as we begin to close out? What would you like to share with them? Any words of inspiration for
Um,
anybody that may be going through this?
Yeah, find community. Find someone that you can be honest with. If you're losing your sight, or you know someone that's losing their sight, it's the sense that nobody wants to lose. Of the five senses, everyone will tell you, I don't want to lose my sight. Like, let me see. I can deal with being deaf or whatever the case is, but please don't let me lose my sight. We still have really fulfilling lives, and we still figure out ways to be happy and connect and procreate and fall in love and contribute to our society and to our culture. You just have to find a way to connect. If you know someone that's losing their sight, please connect them to someone on TikTok. There's a algorithm in TikTok called Blind Talk, where a lot of different blind people share their experiences and their tips and tricks and stuff that I find to be useful. Don't patronize anyone that's blind. Just ask them if they need some assistance and show a little bit of patience. And that's it. I would say we live regular lives. That is so secondary, the blindness. What's more important is what kind of person you want to be. And once you can get a handle on the fact that you're losing your sight, choosing to live is the key. Getting some community and choosing to live. And my life has been really beautiful. I think God gave me another level of sight and vision that I just didn't have before. And perhaps I'm not seeing the ugly in the world either. Everyone is based in my world off of their energy and fitness, because I care about that. But I care about that. But I rather what I see in someone, what makes them fine or what makes them fun or what makes them interesting is really who they are. And I think perhaps that was taken from me, or allowed to be taken from me, because I had to learn to see true beauty and true integrity. And I had to look deeper into relationships and who I want to be. I couldn't rely on just being, attractive or being successful or being physically present somewhere. I had to learn to really decide that I'm going to be your friend and interact with you because there's something interesting about us, right? That is just not carnal, and it's not just on a physical level or a visual level. Like, if I connect to someone, it's because there's real chemistry, and that takes time. And I think that's the beautiful part of this experience for me. And so I'm really grateful that I got to participate in your podcast, and that you are interested in my story and blind people. I think it's awesome. And I'm really glad to have been a participant.
I'm glad you came on. I'm here listening to you, and you have inspired me in so many ways. It's just, yeah. Lex was right. You're a very dope person.
That's my girl. I'm like, who's Rico? Who you in there arguing with right now? They here talking about Will Smith, and I gotta stand up as the only woman on this panel. I said, yo, let me know when I gotta step in there. But she raves about your panel and the people that you surrounded yourself with, and I'm a follower now. So thank you really for giving the people in your community and your followers something interesting, provocative, but really well thought out to like have discourse around. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Well, Kiana, we got the block hot. We got it blazing. And again, man, I can't even find a word to say how awesome you are right now. But thank you for being on the podcast, On the Block with Nick. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
All right.
Take care.
And we out.